Alright, so I have a previous video to this one that, talks about this difference between visibility and self-erasure. And we're going to take this to the I Ching, which is the Book of Changes. And try to keep it concise by maybe sticking more to the cards here. Unless there's certain things in here that I can remember. We'll have to look up in there for changing lines. So, if you want to learn more about the I Ching, there are lots of places where you can learn. I definitely highly recommend this particular version. It's the complete I Ching, the definitive translation of Taoist master Alfred Huang. It's very complete and thorough, and it also takes into account other translations. Doing his best to not put his own interpretation into the material, which I always appreciate. Trying to keep things as to their primary source as possible, but essentially it's a form of connecting with your inner guidance through elements. And in this case, it's there are 8 elements, and individually they are, there's a map in here. Here we go. So the first one's Kion, and these lines are, you can see they're just a solid line. And then the next one is Lake, and you can see that the first one already has a broken line. So that's a yin line. So solid is yang, broken is yin, and those are the 2 primary lines that we're going to be drawing for by, in this way, tossing coins. As you can see, each of them have like different variation. Like now the yin line is in the middle. Now there's 2 yin and 1 yang. Kun, earth, which is the opposite of heaven, has all yin lines. Mountain has a solid yang at the top. Water is the opposite of fire, as you can see, where it's got a solid yang in the middle, sandwiched by 2 yins. And then we have wind. So all of these are like across from their opposites. And these ones are called trigrams. There's 3 lines, so tri. And when they're stacked one on top of the other, they're called hexagrams. So we got 6 lines, and that combines 2 elements and perhaps even like a duplicated element. Like the very first one is Kion, which is heaven, and that is heaven above, heaven below, so all yang lines. And that's the very first hexagram in the I Ching, and there's 64. And if you're into human design at all, part of human design is based off of using the hexagrams in the I Ching, and that is how they are built. So what we're going to do is we're going to toss coins. I got 3 coins here. And they have 2 sides. You can use any coins. You can use quarters, as long as there's 2 sides, a heads and a tails, essentially. So we're going to call this side heads, and we're going to call this side tails. And because yang is dominant, that'll be the head side. And then tails will be the yin side. So when we toss 3 together, I'll just do an example toss. Then we got here 3 coins. 1 is tails, and then these 2 are both heads. So 1 is yin, these 2 are yang. Since there's more yang than yin, it becomes a solid yang line. If I had tossed them and they all were yang, then it's a solid line, but we put a circle through it, because when something reaches its extreme, it becomes its opposite, which you'll see. So a solid yang becomes a yin. Same thing for a solid yin, which will be 2 lines with a space and an X. So we know that it's changing. So that line in its extreme changes to yang. But if we only have 2 yin and 1 yang, then it's just a yin. So here we go. Let's set our intention clearly. How do we navigate this time of transformation where parts of us may feel like they're disappearing or being erased, while, and maybe even at the same time, other parts, or those parts, are being asked to be seen? What's this tension between visibility and erasure? And so what I'm going to do is create, I got my 6 points for 6 lines that I'm drawing, and I'm going to toss the coins in. So, taking a deep breath, clearing my head, focusing on my attention while I'm in my tent intensely. But also releasing, because I trust that my intention is already in the field and is being heard, and now I'm here going to receive it. So, tension between visibility and self-erasure. My left hand is the one that sends, and then the opposite. Right hand is the one that is like sending the energy, and the left hand is the one that is receiving. So I like to toss with my left. So here's our first line. All yin. As you can see, they're all tails. So I'm going to draw a broken line, and it's changing. And I just write all negatives there just to show that it's a changing line. All right. Our best to maintain focus. What is it? This tension between visibility and erasure. Two yin and a yang is a yin line. And another yin line. And that forms our lower trigram, our element in the lower part of our hexagram. So now we're going to draw for our upper trigram. Same intention though. Clearing my head, trusting that both the question and the answer are in the field together. And if there's a question, then there is an answer. Here we got a yang line, 2 heads and a tail. There's another yang. And one more. Oops. And that one's just popped. We got a yin here. So we have one changing line at the bottom. This is what it will look like. So we're going to use this book to reference what those changing lines mean. The one on the bottom, I can already tell you, is Earth, Kun. So we're going to just write that down. Kun, which is Earth, below. And then the one on top, let's see. So it's got 1 yin on the top and 2 yang. So we're looking at lake, Dui. So, Dui, lake. And so together, we form lake over Earth. So Earth is right here, which is 45. So my initial impression of that is that in human design, the 45 is connected to like the king or the queen. Someone who is in an authority, someone who yeah, sounds like they would have to be visible, but yet a lot of the things that they do behind the scenes, like essentially cannot be visible. They need to be done behind the scenes and then presented to everyone. So we're gonna get the name for 45, which is encountering. Nope, so that's 44. It is bringing together. There we go. See, and so it shows this diagram here as well. To me initially it kind of looks like a moose, which wouldn't make sense for this, but moose in indigenous culture represents self-esteem, which is interesting. So we're gonna go sui and then bringing together. And we have one changing line at the bottom, so that will make a difference in our reading because they are specific. So I'll show you how it works. So like, because it's the first one here, what happens is because it's all yin, it'll flip to a yang, so it'll create a line in a different reading. So that line would actually look like, it would look like this. It would be a solid line at the bottom marked by 2 yin, and then the upper trigram isn't affected. So that would be our changing hexagram with the solid line replacing the yin. And in this case it becomes following, which is number 17. So we'll go, this is this, which is 17, following. The number 17, 7, or 7, 1, doesn't matter which order, is also the number for the initiate, which is something that I've been focusing on, as seeing life as an initiation, and following. You know, that one's very interesting. Anyway, we're gonna pause. So I'll just read this first part here. I'll try to keep this, not so long, unless you guys would like to go more extensively. Like, I could go really deep into this, that I'm trying to make shorter videos. So here we have the name and structure. Originally, please forgive my pronunciation because I don't actually know how to pronounce this word properly. So I'm going to say kui, designated bundles of thickly grown grasses. So get a focus here so you can read it too. From this meaning, it grew to signify collectively things together. And then it said sequence of the gua, which are the lines changing. So the previous one was 45, which is encountering. So everything flips. So, the one after this is going to change as well. So bringing together becomes growing upward. So it's the book of changes. So everything's always changing before and after. So after encountering, things begin to gather together. Thus, after encountering, bringing together follows. And then we here have different translations. Wilhelm translates kui as gathering together or massing. Blofeld translated as gathering together, assembling, and this author uses the term bringing together. So bringing together means bringing people together. Bringing bears a sense of causing to come and implies a purposeful togetherness. Gathering expresses only a general idea, usually with no implication of an arrangement. Bringing together is more active and productive and has purpose. So I'm just going to jump here. The structure of the gua is lake above, earth below. In its form and context, this gua has a close connection to union, which is enumerated 8. The structure of union is water above, earth below. A lake is a place where a great amount of water accumulates. The ancient Chinese realized that this sort of bringing together is more powerful than that of union. Union symbolizes a small community, such as a neighborhood, but Kui symbolizes a large community, such as a nation. In Union, there is only one solid line at the 5th place, so it's talking about those lines that we drew. In Union, they're talking about the 5th line would be this place right here. And it's all yin lines except for that one line. And this school has 2 solid lines, so it's talking about at the 4th and the 5th place, it has a solid yang line. These 2 solid lines, a king, which is the 5th line, and a minister, the 4th line, are powerful in their leadership. They work in tandem to bring people together in a larger community with a strong mutual bond. And then it's has these kind of like almost like mystical, poetic interpretations here. So initial 6, so 6 is what is termed to yin, and 9 is what is termed to yang. And initial is the first position, which is the bottom line, which we have a changing line. So initial 6, being sincere and truthful, not to the end, confused, still bringing together. Oh, if you can hear that in the background. If crying out, once grasping hands, laughing, do not worry, go forward, no fault. Confused, still bringing together, one's mind is in confusion. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty relevant. There's definitely a lot of confusion. In here, the bottom line, sorry, it's really blurry, so I'm gonna work on that in the future, but for now I'm not quite sure how to get it to focus, so you guys can also read it. The bottom line is a yin element incorrectly positioned at a yang place. So again, if you want to learn more about I Ching, you could get this book, find some things online as well. I will likely be doing more I Ching videos because I really love using the divination, so I'll slowly reveal more, but for now we'll continue. The bottom line is a yin element incorrectly positioned at a yang place. It corresponds to the yang element at the 4th place, which is good. They want to get together, so this line wants to get together with the minister. However, there are 2 yin elements obstructing them. Although she is sincere, she is unable to reach the end. If she were to call out sincerely, one at the 4th place would hear and come. Then she would burst out laughing and grasp the other's hand. The Yao text says, "Do not worry, going forward, no fault." This line tells us that sincerity is one of the basic factors of a strong union. So sincerity, that feels like in our question about being seen versus unseen, or self-erasure. Keeping that that idea of being sincere, being truthful, being honest. It's not gonna look pretty all the time. It's gonna look strange. But I like this line about laughter. If she were to call it sincerely, one at the 4th place would hear and come, then she would burst out laughing and grasp the other's hand. There's a joy that's held in that line. And it also seems to hint about, not doing this alone, calling for each other's help. So I'm going to pivot and pull from these. This deck is a separate thing from this book. But I like how concise the cards can be. And the book also gives us some information. So we'll pull out our changing line 17 and we'll pull out our gathering. So gathering, creating, can you see it? Not focusing very well. Creating success with the king's presence. There is a temple, fruitful to see great people, creating success. Constancy bears fruit. using great sacrificial animals, good fortune, fruitful to have a direction to go. So it's very symbolic. It also has a lot to do with like literal things that happened in China. My apologies if I'm getting these things wrong. I'm doing my best. This may mean an external gathering, investing with others in a common purpose, or an internal one. You are integrating your many roles and strengths. Explore shared roots, perhaps seeing people for guidance to align your efforts with your purpose, and understand mundane daily activities as part of a larger story. What is asked of you? What are you investing in? And our changing line. Following. From the source, creating success, constancy bears fruit, no mistake. Honor the flow of energy from source to fulfillment and align your actions to it, allowing your ideal outcome to meld with the natural current. Following may then be an effortless flow of supportive synchronicities. Moving with the creative process is never a mistake. How are things flowing, and how can you move with them? Where are you being nudged and guided? Gathering and following. I suppose if you're not visible to the people that you could be gathering with in strength, then there could be a stunt in your evolution. You are integrating many roles and strengths. Gathering, remembering, following, being initiated, taking turns leading and following. I'm going to share what's written here in this book too, which comes with the I Ching divination kit. For 45, gathering. Lake higher than the earth. Gathering. A noble one sets aside weapons and tools and warns against the unexpected. The reservoir has high earth banks and water level. If it flooded, you would lose everything. Poised between intensity and overload. So much invested in one place. The noble one takes care. Quietly resourceful and prepared for trouble, communicating the need to stay watchful. Wow, that used our word intensity. And that tension, poised between intensity and overload. So much invested in one place, the noble one takes care. Quietly resourceful and prepared for trouble, communicating the need to stay watchful. And 17, following. At the center of the lake is thunder. So that's what happens to the changing line here. This becomes thunder, the lower trigram. At the center of the lake is thunder, following. A noble one at nightfall goes inside for renewal and rest. As the noble one knows, energy is stored up below the level of conscious activity. And so to connect with it, you need to go inside and sleep. Instead of obsessively pursuing your desires, stop and rest in accordance with the season. There's our attention. There is a need to stop and rest and go with the flow. Like, for example, we're approaching a full moon this evening to tomorrow morning around 10 a.m. In the Northern Hemisphere. Full moon is everything, that you would set intentions for 2 weeks ago at the new moon is fully visible and is here and present, and that might bring up feelings of reassurance, but it could also bring in feelings of loss or guilt for perhaps not stepping into what you had intended. But just like the changing yin and yang, yin and yang lines, the full moon will also again become the new moon. Once it is reached its extreme as the full moon, it begins to decrease until it disappears. So there is a time for gathering inwardly and following those internal cycles. And there's a time for gathering outwardly so that we can come together with like-minded, like-spirited people, creatures, places in the world, resources, those things all coming together for a greater end. And gathering can take a lot of energy, inwardly and outwardly. So there's that necessary need for resting and pulling in that idea of erasure or of releasing things. We can't hold everything. So there are some things that are going to be erased. We see it in the earth all the time. The earth goes through its cycles, and there have been complete erasures of civilizations after visibility. So yeah, I mean, that idea of that laughter coming in feels really relevant here, because of taking things so seriously. Like, we need a little bit of joy. We need to remember and recognize the impermanence of everything. So coming full circle back to the story with the butterflies that I told in the previous video, if you watched, that risk of embodying that new transformed part of yourself, even though it will also only be temporary, and perhaps more temporary than your caterpillar life, because it's so fragile in this realm. But in this case, is it better to risk living with those beautiful fragile wings and experiencing a new way of being, versus not stepping into it all and maybe perhaps not emerging from your chrysalis? I'm going to leave that as an open-ended question, because depending on who you are, it might feel, and it might be, your way to choose to not emerge. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with either. We're not going to polarize it in that way. Things are what they are until they're not. And we do have choice, but we are also co-creating. We're co-creating with the universe, and we're co-creating with each other. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope that has brought some clarity. And this is something that I'm hoping to do more of, and it will smooth out as we go. But for now, it might be a little hectic, and that's just part of it. I love you. Take care, beautiful beings.